Good morning, good afternoon, actually. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm going to start my talk with a little anecdote. When I turned 30, I started to get a lot of advertisement that was a little bit different. Target advertisement for pregnancy, baby clothes, something to do with the family. Well, I was all over social media with my gender as female and my age as 30. And honestly, that was not really in the plan. So I was discussing with a friend of mine, and I was like, I don't want to get this advertisement anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to shut it down. And she said, yeah, just change it to male, Put your social media as male. Perhaps it's going to change something. So yeah, I changed my social media to male. And to my surprise, I started to get a lot of other types of advertisements. Executive or business masterclasses, job opportunities, suits, or things that, were much more to do with business, with thriving your career, or sports cars. Come to Spa and drive a nice sports car. Definitely a lot more exciting than pregnancy tests. But why am I talking about that? Of course, I want to buy real estate in Spain one day. I mean, who doesn't aim those things for yourself? But the problem is that because of biases in our society, women are not targeted for that type of advertisement. And this is just one type of bias. There are a very long list of biases that you can probably read here. Recall bias, publication bias, sampling bias, so many biases. What is bias, right? What is bias? I hope you all know what bias is. Imagine you're growing up in a household and someone is constantly telling you, Karen, these type of people are not to be trusted. And you don't know any of these type of people. And you just grow up with this information, this wrong information. And then one day you come across this type of person and you're like, oh, I heard that you're not to be trusted. And you don't even check, you never had contact. And you grew up with this biased information. What is the problem of bias? Because bias is going to actually alter how you are acting towards society. And your actions today are all being documented. All your actions are becoming data. All this data is becoming information that is feeding technology and is feeding artificial intelligence models. But before I dive into this topic, let me tell you a little story. Does any one of you know these women? Just you? 3, 4 people? 5? These are the computers. Women are the founding mothers of ICT technology. In the 1940s and in the 1950s, IT was a female-dominated industry. And just like a teacher is teaching, the computers were computing. So the word computer actually comes from these women. And they were everywhere. The computer girls. 20 years ago, a girl could be a secretary, a school teacher, maybe a librarian. If they are very ambitious, they could go into professions and compete with men. Yeah, that's how society was viewing us. Computing was really something secretarial, made for women. And it was actually not only computing, it was also manufacturing. During World War, a lot of men had to serve in the military, and women started to enter the manufacturing and engineering courses as well. But slowly, as the war ended and the veterans started to come back, they started to occupy the space. And also for IT, it started not to be seen as a low-quality job, secretarial. No, IT started to thrive. And with leadership and with money, women were kicked out of these scopes. Just for you to have an idea, in 1984, you still had around 37% of women studying engineering and bachelors in ICT technology. But in 2016, the number decreased to 18%, and it's even lower today. But before I move forward, I would like to do a quiz. So if you can all stand up, please. If you can stand up, please. The quiz is very simple. You're going to raise your hand. You're going to raise your hand if you think the answer is correct, and if you're wrong, you're going to sit down. Columbia University, founded in 1754, the Ivy League Columbia University, started accepting women in, who thinks it was 1964? 1964, raise your hand. You can sit. 1920. You can sit. 1983. Sorry. Clicker is funny. It was in 1983 that the Ivy League, Columbia University, started to accept women. And when was the first female crash test dummy created? You know, when you have a car and the car is going to crash, and you're trying to get some information on how the car is reacting to this crash, when was the first female crash dummy created? Was it in 2023? Yeah, you are correct. It was in 2023. It was not so long ago. The first commercial crash test dummy adapted to women's body was only made in 2023. Oh, well, you got a spoiler on this one, but let's keep moving. When did women participation become mandatory in clinical trials in the US National Institute of Health? Who thinks it was 1994? Yeah, some of you didn't see it, perhaps. It was only in 1994. And by coincidence, perhaps, it was very shortly before that cardiologist Bernadine Haley was appointed as the first woman to direct the National Institute. 1991, they appoint a woman. 1994, it became mandatory to test drugs in women's bodies. You know what this means, right? Until 1994, there were drugs in the pharmacy that scientists had no idea how they would react in women's bodies. Thank you very much for those who participated on the quiz. You can sit. Yeah, sorry, I'm having some issues with the clicker. But the thing is, what I want to talk about here today is the gender data gap. Gender data gap means that today, in 2024, where artificial intelligence is everywhere and in every industry in the world, we have very little data on how women experience society. And the data that we have is extremely biased. Let's go back into this topic of the car crash test dummies. Well, want to hear some statistics about this one? It so turns out that the university discovered that women are 73% more likely to be seriously injured in car crashes. And women are 17% more likely to die in car crashes because nobody ever thought that perhaps the crash test dummies wouldn't react the same way for a woman's bodies. Yeah, I see some people are picking up their phones to check, like, is this really true? You can look it up. It's everywhere online. And if you look into some other types of data, for example, in healthcare, University of Toronto discovered that women are 32% more likely to die if they're operated by male surgeons. And this was some very recent research. It's only from the end of 2022. In the end of 2022, they discovered that, and this proves that today we know very little on how women experience society. This was not a small research. It was 1.3 million patients and 3,000 surgeons in Canada. Another example, I hope I don't depress you too much with examples today, but a friend of mine came to me recently and she said, Karen, I am really concerned because I just lost all my health data on the COSO platform. For the ones that are not from Belgium, there is a health platform in Belgium in which all your data from all your life is stored, all the tests that you did in all university hospitals. But it so turns out that she lost all her data. And I was like, how come did you lose all your data? And she said, well, you know, Karen, I am a trans woman. I was born a man. When I transitioned into woman, I got a new social security number. And so it turns out that the social security number in Belgium is linked to your gender. If you are the first man to be born in the year, you get number 01. If you are the first woman, you get 02. And so it goes. And because of that, her platform got erased. She managed to get some of the data back from one university hospital that was aware about this issue. But besides that, all her data is gone. She needs to do X-rays again and MRI scans and whatever, and put herself through radiation. But then let's start looking a bit more into technology and artificial intelligence, right? How these things react to society. Look at the Twitter bot. One big tech company decided, I am going to create this chat bot, a little bit like before ChatGPT, but quite similar, but I'm going to let people interact with it and train it, and let's see where it goes. It became racist in 4 hours, and in 24 hours it was put down. Racist, misogynist, it was asking for dictators to come back. It was saying things like, we're going to build a wall, the chatbots, that people interacted with and had the opportunity to train it. Another example, a big tech company decided to automate how they are doing the hiring procedure. They basically got all the CVs that they ever hired because they thought, well, if we hire, these CVs are probably good. They fed it into an artificial intelligence model, and the artificial intelligence model, being a black box that doesn't really tell us how they are making these calculations, basically said, okay, they hired a lot of men. They didn't hire a lot of women, so probably being a woman is bad. So what they said, whenever they would get a CV with the word woman on it, they would put minus points and on the bottom of the list. And it took this tech company 1 year to realize that they were not receiving any female CVs anymore. Another example, also in AI, but more towards finance, this tech company decided to launch cards, credit cards, and you had the opportunity to ask for credit. But so it happens that someone one day on the former Twitter started tweeting like, wow, I just applied for this card together with my wife. I don't know for what reason, because I have the same debt and all our salary goes to the same account and we have the same mortgage, but my wife got 20 times less credit. 20 times less credit. Imagine if you're a female entrepreneur and you're trying to get credit at a bank, and the bank cannot even explain you why the artificial intelligence model gave 20 times less credit to you. Yeah, a lot of these examples don't have a proper explanation. But let's go into stereotyping. Well, now it's very popular to try to make images with AI. I don't know if some of you know, but I'm from Brazil, and when I put on the tool, show me the picture of a Brazilian woman, yeah, they didn't have a lot of clothes. And that's the stereotype that Brazilian women perhaps have. But do you think this is the stereotype that I want to have? Do you think that is nice for a person to suffer from these stereotypes over and over again? Yes, and these stereotypes can be reinforced by artificial intelligence if we are not vigilant. But one of the worst examples, I would say, it's from one of the AI use cases in America, when they decided to use AI for judging people if they should go to prison or not. And guess what happened? If the clicker allow me, the AI misclassified almost twice as many the black defendants as high risk compared to white defendants. Misclassified, which means that they were wrong. mistakenly labeled more white defendants as low risk, who then went on to reoffend because this was an actual project going on. 48% white defendants compared to 28 black defendants. This means that they were releasing people that were dangerous because the AI was biased. And classified black defendants as higher risk when all the other variables, such as prior crime, age, gender, they were all controlled, 77% more likely than white defendants. So everything on paper was saying that this person was not as dangerous as another person, but yet the AI misclassified. And yeah, now we are trying to work together with AI. And actually, what I want you to is not to be afraid of technology. I am an engineer, I work with AI, but the point is that I want it to work for me. I want it to work for my friends. I want it to work for people that I care about, and I want to work it for society. I don't want these biases to be happening. However, this is a huge mirror to society, because these biases, they already exist. It doesn't mean that you're not going to put an AI model that you're not going to discover and everything is going to be fine. No, these biases are all out there. And what we need is precisely to use technology to discover these biases and correct them. I want you to dare to do it. Because what's happening now is that a lot of tech companies are saying diversity and inclusion as less and less relevant, getting rid of their D&I teams, and yeah, it's not on the agenda anymore. Perhaps it doesn't bring money anymore. I don't know. I don't care. I want you to understand that these things are deadly. They are killing people. They are putting people in jail. And if we don't pay attention to them, one day they might affect you or someone that you care about as well. Because tell me, which industry today doesn't have technology? Almost every industry in the world today has artificial intelligence. So you need teams that are aware. You need teams that are highly ethical. Thank you. Highly ethical. So that when they spot such issues, they're not going to stay quiet. They're going to fix it. They're not going to stay afraid of working on it. Sorry. I want you to dare today and always to ask more of artificial intelligence. Thank you very much.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much, Karen.
Don't worry.
Thank you. I told you we were bringing some powerhouses here today, and Karen is definitely one of them. To be honest, it touched me. I don't know if you felt the same. Did it touch you? Not only in your head, but in your heart, what she was saying? Like, it's undeniable. AI is there. And what she's saying is very important. Karen, just a quick question. You told us not to be scared. You work in technology, you are an engineer, but I'm not. And to be honest, it scares the shit out of me if I hear this type of stuff. So do you have, I mean, there is no like one big reset button. There is bias in society, there is bias in AI. But what is one specific solution you can give us, like one specific example of unbiasing that AI model? Can you just give us one or two?
Absolutely. As I was explaining, there was this use case of the recruiting tool.
Yeah.
In which basically they realized, well, after 1 year, that the tool was biased, and you can do bias corrections in your models. You actually need to be aware of what's happening to correct it. And that's why I say for every single case of AI bias that exists also a solution and a correction. And people cannot be afraid of discovering these biases, because it doesn't mean that they don't discover that they are not there, you know? You actually need to dare to dig into these biases, discover, correct it, and make it as an example. Because if these companies also wouldn't come forward with these use cases, I would have nothing to present today, and these biases would still be out there.
Yes, but there has to be, like you talked about diversity, for some companies, I mean, we're standing here, but for some companies it's not interesting anymore. So there needs to be a willingness in the first place, right?
Yes, I would say that I suppose a few people here today are working with technology, perhaps decision makers. Make sure that you're working with companies that have ethical values, sustainability values, very high in the agenda, actual values, and not the ones that the public affairs team is reinforcing, that they are very serious about that they really see it as an issue. Because otherwise, if they're just going to paint a beautiful picture of what AI can be, we're never going to solve this issue.
Are there CEOs, leaders of technology companies here? Raise your hands. Take it with you, guys. Take it with you. Can I have a big round of applause for Karen? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.